let's talk about usability of the Unity editor. I'm going to get the editor back to a state that you should be following along with, which is where we have a main camera and a directional light in the hierarchy. And if you are unsure if you've modified something, just go to the top right, select layout, and we're going to choose default. That's going to reset the Unity editor. The challenge with this editor is that, or this editor layout, is that everything is kind of all over the place. I don't particularly like that I can't see how my game looks and feels without having to toggle between these two. I also don't particularly like that my hierarchy on the left, I have to click that and then I have to look on the right to get program information or object information about the main camera. Something to just quickly highlight about Unity and the way it works is Unity is a component-based design. So when we build things, you'll notice that every component or every game object has various components. And this is actually how we're going to be building video games, by attaching components to our game objects that give them behavior and bring life into Unity. Something that's really cool though is that this editor is totally customizable for how we want to build games and applications. For example, if I wanted to, I could actually just dock my hierarchy right here next to the scene view. Or if I wanted my project view to be like over here and my scene view to be here, I could totally do that. You have total customization for how you actually want this stuff to look just by dragging the panels around. If you select the title of the panel of the console, for example, I can just drag it up and it will snap into a position. If at any time I'm like, hey, you know what? I don't like this, I can just go back to the top right, select the default, and reselect default, and it's going to refresh and put me back to our starting point. That being said, I've been building games and applications now for 15 years. I promise you there is a better way to have your editor layout set up so that you can be more productive in the Unity environment. This is helpful for building video games as well as iOS games, VR games, you name it. So I'm going to show you the layout that I prefer. And at the end of the day, it actually doesn't matter what layout you go with. Unity, the editor itself, will become secondhand very soon, and I promise you, no matter what guide or tutorial you follow along with, these core 5 panels, the hierarchy, the scene view, the game view, the inspector, and the project view, no matter how the instructor has their layout set up, you are going to be able to follow along just fine. However, I do recommend you get started on the best foot, and that includes a professional, more productive layout. So to get that layout, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make sure that we start off in the default layout so that we're all starting at the same state. From there, we're going to select the default layout and we're going to select tall. So in the top right, select default, change it to tall. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our game view and we're going to drag it all the way down below our scene view, and then I should be able to level it out so that I can see on the very top portion I have my scene view, and on the bottom portion I have my game view. Now, as I'm actually building out my game, for example, I could create a 3D object in a cube. As I build my game, I can actually see how it's going to look in the game view. And if we look at my main camera and set that back to default, you can see here that I can see my cube in the scene view, and I also see it in my game view. The next thing I want to do is, right now, I can only view the assets based on the folder that I select. I'm going to change my project layout by selecting the 3 dots, and I'm going to choose the 1 column layout. This is going to make it so that I can easily select the assets that I want to work with in a drop-down format like this. Lastly, I do want to bring back the console, and I like to have it docked right next to the game view. If we go to Window, General, and then we can select Console. It's going to open the console in a big box like this, and I can just drag it right next to the game view. So now I have my game view, my scene view, my hierarchy, and my project. And if I select an object, if I select the object in the hierarchy, it's nice and convenient for me to read the inspector right here. This is just an environment that I have used for years. I've seen it used professionally throughout Cartoon Network. I've seen it used professionally throughout Ubisoft. Many developers and over 100,000 students that I've actually taught are all using this editor layout. I promise you it makes building games really, really easy. When you're building for mobile, for example, it's also convenient to be able to take the game view and align it side by side with your scene view. And if we dock the scene view to the console, we can do this. And now as I build my application on the left, I can see how it's actually going to look to the end user on the right. All right, I'm going to go ahead and undo that. I'm going to put this back down to here, and we'll put the console dock to the game view. Once I'm happy with this editor, it's really important that every time I open Unity, this is the editor that I'm going to have. So we can actually save this editor. Select the tool, and we're going to choose Save Layout. And I'm going to call this Professional Layout. I'm going to save it, and now if I go back to the default, I can get back to my saved layout by selecting default in the top right and choosing the professional layout. I'll see you guys in the next video.